Hello, I'm Wanja Gröger, also known as Nechtan, and this is my first question and answer video. Enjoy! Before I start with the questions, if your question is not answered in this video, feel free to comment under this video, and maybe I will answer them in my next question and answer video. So first of all, I will answer the questions that I received on Twitter, because I don't have many Twitter followers and there are only 2 questions, so you can follow me on Twitter. First question is, are somewhat personal questions okay? Yes, they are okay, and I will answer your questions in the end of the video, because they are really interesting and they will probably take a bit longer to answer. The second question is, do you play any styles other than metal? What are your thoughts on doing so? Well, metal is my favorite genre, and I like to express my emotions in playing metal music, so I can't really imagine to play something entirely different. However, I like to incorporate little elements from other styles, and also I have one band, Heroes, that plays more rock music, but still has some metal influences. There is one drum cam of me playing one of our songs here. Next, I will answer the questions that I received under my last YouTube video. The first one is, if you could tour with any of your favorite bands, who would it be and why? Well, that's not easy to answer for me, because many of the bands that I really like, I do like also because of the drumming, and I cannot really imagine to replace the drummer. So, well, I think there are some bands that would be really cool to tour with. For example, Gröger. I really like them, and I think it would be very good for my drumming career to tour with them. But other than that, I'm actually pretty glad with touring with the bands that I have so far. Next question is, how the hell do you play that fast? Well, I remember when I was a beginner at drumming, and I saw other drummers who could play really fast, it was almost like magic to me, and I couldn't imagine how I would ever be able to do the same. But in the end, with an efficient technique and lots of practice, over the years, I achieved the same kind of speed. And at some day I just realized, oh well, actually I can do this. So it's just a matter of a good playing technique, lots of practice. It also matters how you practice. And then over time you will get there. Hey Wanja, did you try trick pedals? Well, unfortunately not, so I cannot really tell you anything about them. I would like to try them one day, but it's not like they are around in a normal music store. Next question. Can you play People Equal Shit? Yeah, probably. Are rudiments important to practice? Well, I think some people maybe overdo it a little bit with their rudiments, but in general, rudiments are very useful, especially the basic rudiments like playing single strokes with your feet and with your hands, playing double strokes with your hands. It's really useful, and if you don't spend any time on rudiments, I think it's very hard to become a very good drummer. So, here comes a bunch of questions in one comment. Firstly, who are we? When I say we, I usually mean me and my brother, Micha. He's the one who manages my YouTube channel and Facebook channel and Twitter and so on, and who films all my videos, who cuts my videos and who uploads them. So he's kind of the master in the background, and I'm just doing mostly the drumming, and also I'm answering most of the comments. What is the ideal practice session like for a metal drummer? Well, usually I like to divide my practice sessions into 2 main parts. The first part is technical practice, and the second part is just playing songs, or trying new stuff, or practicing fill-ins or whatever. So normally I spend the first hour in my practice room just practicing speed and endurance for my double bass and blast beats. And after that I practice songs maybe for an upcoming live gig or an upcoming drum cover, or I try new fill-ins, or I practice certain specific things. How to deal with progress that can be excruciatingly slow at times? That is a tough question, because I also had problems with that in the past. But basically you have to keep in mind that you don't practice only to become better, but try to view it more like that you actually practice because it is fun to play drums. Even if you do technical practice, that can be really boring sometimes. Just try to have fun with every single hit you make on your drums. This makes it a lot easier. Also, don't waste too much time comparing yourself to other drummers or to the progress of other drummers. Another thing that might help you if you are stuck somewhere is that you just change your practice routines and see if something better comes out of it. How can one manage drumming and his or her main job? Well, I think it's really important in that case to practice efficiently. If you sit down maybe 2 hours per day and just jam the stuff that is easy to play, and you just jam for the fun of it, I think you won't improve that much. But if you sit down half an hour per day and do really a good technical practice with stopwatch and metronome, you will still see great progress. So if you have only little time for drumming, it's especially important to make your practice as efficient as possible. What are the most important aspects of stick technique that every drummer should work on? How to develop one's weak hand? That's difficult. I think it again depends on what genre you play and what is actually required, and also what kind of technique you use. I think it is very important for technically challenging drumming that you actually learn an efficient way to play. If you try to play blast beats just from the power of your forearms, it won't work out in the long run. It's better to learn to play them with the fingers, or maybe with a finger and wrist hybrid technique, or push-pull like I do, or whatever. So it's important to learn an efficient technique, and also it's very important to stay as relaxed as possible to avoid injuries. These are the basics that every drummer should consider. Developing your weak hand is sometimes pretty challenging, but the solution is very simple. I just practiced a lot with one hand individually on my snare, for example, just doing single strokes. And when I did so, I just practiced always with my left hand twice as much as with my right hand. For example, I had the metronome on 200 BPM, 1 minute with my right hand, and then 2 minutes with my left hand, then again 1 minute with my right hand, and so on. Also, it can make sense to practice some rhythms. For example, if you play a regular, let's say, Slayer beat, like this, if you just practice this beat, leading with your left hand on the cymbal, on the hi-hat or the right cymbal. Next question. I have the low-end Speed Cobra twin pedal. My ultimate goal for now is like 210 BPM 16th notes for 5 to 7 minutes. Should I get a better pedal like Axis Trick or Pearl Demon Drive? Are those only useful in crazy fast speeds like 250 plus BPM? What is the benefit of getting those? Well, I think if you want to play 210 BPM 16th notes, your pedal will be absolutely enough. I think all the super expensive pedals like Axis or Trick or this Polish pedal that no one can pronounce, Kshashi Kopto, I think they are only useful if you play like maybe 230, 240, 250 upwards. And even then, the primary advantage of these pedals is not really making you faster, but the long-term quality. Especially if you use a double pedal, the quality of the drive shaft is very critical. So the main reason why I, for example, bought the Demon Drive pedal was that I was fed up with the drive shaft wearing out quickly and getting too much play. The Demon Drives didn't really make me faster, but now I have a pedal that I can rely on for a very, very long time without it getting too much play in parts. Do you have advice for meeting people to play in a band with? I am playing in 2 bands right now, but I am the one who practices the most in both. I really want to play with musicians who are at a higher level, but it seems so difficult to find those people, even with the internet and living in a big city. Well, yes, it is difficult to find good musicians to play with. But I think as a drummer, it's not as difficult as, for example, as a guitarist, because I think there are more guitarists out there who are good than drummers who are out there who are good, and that is simply because it's easier to buy a guitar and to practice guitar than to practice drums. But to get back to your question, just try to be as good as possible, try to stand out, maybe do some YouTube videos to show around, and with time people will start to recognize you and will seek contact to you, and this way you will get to know musicians who are also on a high level. Have you ever tried Xiaxi Kopto? No, unfortunately not. But if I ever have a chance to try them, I will definitely do so. What are some of the greatest advantages of your direct drive pedal? Well, actually I think the direct drive itself doesn't really have a big advantage. The biggest advantage on my Demon Drive pedal is the drive shaft, because it doesn't wear out and doesn't have play. So I'm not sure if drive shaft is in some way superior to chain or belt drive. How do you keep your hardware from slipping? Well, my bass drum has little feet and they have spikes on it, so it doesn't really slip. Also, I always play drums on a carpet, which also prevents slipping. And on my slave pedal, on my left pedal, I have this little device that I clamp onto it, which also has spikes, so the left pedal doesn't slip. So, let's get to the questions I received on Facebook. The first one is: as a drummer and a professional musician that you are, playing music takes a lot of time. So has it affected your relationships in any way? Family, friends, etc.? Well, first of all, I'm not yet a fully professional musician. I have to work normal jobs to pay my rent and to eat. But I hoped to be fully professional in maybe a year or something. We'll see. Has it affected my relationships? First of all, I think like 99% of my friends are also bandmates. So rehearsing and making music is actually a way for me to meet my friends. Also playing live shows and stuff like that. With a partner and family, it's hard to tell. I think especially with a partner, it's really important that the partner understands your dream and understands why you are doing this. And with that in mind, it's actually not that bad, I think. And with the family, it's just the same. My family is in general pretty supportive of what I do, and so they understand why I am doing this and understand that I don't have too much time left when I'm doing this. So, yeah. And one part of my family, my brother, again, he's involved in what I'm doing because he's doing my videos and so on. So doing this actually is also a way to be in contact with my brother. When you started, did your leg muscles or ankles sort of lock up? I don't mean in pain or because of hours of practice, just remaining down as if it's forgotten to move back again. Well, it sounds a bit scary. I think it hasn't happened to me before, something like this. So, yeah, it sounds scary. Well, of course, it sometimes happens when I'm really tired or when I haven't played for a few weeks or something, that first when I start again, that my body parts don't really move as I would like them to move. And I have to get used to some things before I actually feel comfortable playing drums again. But I have never experienced something like this, that my ankles completely lock up and don't move. What's the best way to keep yourself motivated while practicing? When I practice speed, endurance, etc., but then just end up jamming out. I think there are two aspects that I already mentioned. Try to have fun with everything you do, also with the boring practice routines. And it also helps to have a fixed schedule. When you have, for example, your goal is to do a certain practice routine from start to end. For example, you start with 150 BPM and do 2 minutes double bass, 2 minutes blast beats, and then you go up to 200 BPM. And if you make this something regular, it also almost becomes some sort of ritual to get into the right mood for drumming and also to warm up with drumming. And you will realize that when you keep to your schedule each time, it will feel much better to jam around after you have done this practice. What is the best music to practice to becoming an extreme metal drummer with only one bass drum pedal? I cannot really think of any extreme metal drummer I have ever seen who plays only with one pedal, so I should suggest you get a double pedal. But if you still want to play extreme music or play fast stuff with your hands, I think you may practice some punk rock or something. So there are also, I think, two questions about how I'm tuning my drum set. Well, that's a bit funny because actually I'm not very good at tuning my drum set. I use a tension watch and then I just experiment until the drums somehow sound decent. So there's no special method behind it. But with the bass drum, I actually have a video about how to tune your bass drum and how to make your bass drum sound good, because that's actually something that I worked on for a long time, and you can watch it here. Funny question here. Do you think aliens exist? Yes, definitely. The universe is so fucking big, I just cannot imagine that there is not something out there. How did you build your endurance in double bass drumming in high speeds? Well, the answer is pretty simple. I just practiced a lot of endurance stuff. Especially in the beginning, I often sat down and just read a book and was playing double bass all the time. You can also see an early example of how I did practice in this old video here. What's your favorite drummer? Well, I actually have a video about my top 5 favorite drummers here. Why extreme metal? What motivates you to play extreme metal? Well, for me personally, extreme metal is mostly about extreme emotions, and I like to express myself in extreme metal. I think especially in most pop music, the emotions are maybe not like this, but more like this, and it just seems boring to me. What can you advise to beginner metal drummers? First of all, don't try to play too fast too soon. Give yourself some time. Also, learn an efficient technique and give yourself time to learn this technique properly. I think this is the most important thing. Would you mind describing one practice day of yours? How do you assign your practice routine across the week? Well, across the week, I don't really have a plan. I just play when I have time, and usually I practice like 5 times a week. Each time maybe 2 to 3 hours, sometimes more, sometimes less. A typical practice day, well, I think for the first hour, I already talked about that, but for the first hour I start with technical practice, and after that I usually do additional practice like practicing certain double bass patterns, practicing songs for a band, and stuff like that. I'm also working on something where I will be able to answer these kinds of questions in a lot more detail. How many years have you been working on your double stroke technique with the kick? Well, it's a bit hard to say, but I have actually a video where I talk about my beginnings as a drummer, and you can see it there. The link is here. How long did it take you to learn the blast beats very fast? Same answer as the last question. Watch this video. All drummers had their ups and downs. What were yours? I cannot really think about certain ups, but I certainly had one great down, and that was when I injured my right wrist, and after that I had for a very long time problems with my right wrist. But everything is solved now for a few years, and I don't have problems with that anymore. So, now we have one question in German, and that is, was ist dein Ziel? 350 BPM. Roughly translated, what is your goal? 350 BPM. Well, I don't have a specific BPM goal, so to say. I just try my best to become as best as I can get. Or a short answer in German. Ich habe kein bestimmtes Ziel, was die BPMs angeht. Ich versuche einfach, so gut wie möglich zu sein und so gut wie möglich zu werden. So, now as I mentioned in the beginning, I will come to the more personal questions. It was actually just one person who asked me all those questions, and I'm not sure if I will have the time to answer them all in depth, but I will try to answer at least some of them. It starts with, what do you think about Christian black metal? And do you think that there should be a higher purpose to music? Should it be used as a tool for spiritual or philosophical purposes? I think it can be used as a tool, but it doesn't necessarily have to be used as a tool. So it's just up to every musician for himself to decide that. Also, Christian black metal, I think it's a bit weird when people play music that is like in everything from appearance to the sound of it is kind of made to be as demonic as possible, and at the same time do it in a Christian way. I think it's a bit weird, but if it works for them, well, yeah, why not? How important are the lyrics to you? Do you have a favorite theme? Not really. Sometimes it depends a bit on what actually is in the lyrics, if they are important to me or not. Usually when I just listen to a random new black metal band, let's say, I don't really care too much about the lyrics. But with some bands over time, I get interested in the lyrics, I read the lyrics, and they become somehow important to me. Also, there are lyrics that I just appreciate because they are very appealing in an aesthetic way. For example, many lyrics from Cradle of Filth are very well thought out and very well written, and I really like them. And now the probably biggest question, and lastly, if I may, I would like to ask about your personal beliefs. Are you an atheist? Are you non-spiritual? Do you follow any particular spiritual or philosophical path? I think just by answering this question I could fill a whole series of videos, but to make it as short as possible, I don't really believe in anything with 100%. I think more in different possibilities. For example, does God exist? Does God not exist? I think the probability that he does not exist is much higher than the probability that he exists. So I think I could say I do not believe in a God. Well, and I do not really follow any particular philosophical or spiritual path. I just try to be true to myself, to be honest with myself, and to do as much as possible the things that feel good to me. I think this is the major essence. I'm not sure if I believe in a spiritual dimension. I think more like that there may be phenomena that cannot yet be explained, but that will maybe be explainable in the future with new advancements in science. So that's it. That were many questions, and this has become a very long video. So thank you for watching. Also, thank you for sending in your questions. If there are any questions left, feel free to comment down below. If you want to support me, you can buy, for example, this t-shirt in my shop. Link is down in the description. You can also like my Facebook page, follow me on Twitter, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you, and see you next time.